The immortal John Hancock here, and I'm back to do the final part of my greatest hits PlayStation collection. And there are some uncommon titles in here for those that are collecting it. Again, I don't think these are ever going to be highly sought after. This is for a very particular collector, and I just enjoy it just because I think most collectors don't collect this stuff. And so I'm here to finish off the list and talk about the final part of the PlayStation Greatest Hits collection. So it's in loose alphabetical order, so if there's something out of order, I'm sorry. I just again wanted to show these games in physical form, which hasn't been done on YouTube yet. So we got Spider-Man. Many of these games are pretty solid too. Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro. We have SpongeBob SquarePants Super Sponge. Gosh, my son's a fan of that cartoon. Drives me nuts. We have Spyro the Dragon. Yes, Spyro had a life before Skylanders. Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. And Spyro Year the Dragon. Excellent platform games. You know, really was a solid series. Next, there was some Star Wars games. They all didn't stink. They kind of mixed bag here. Dark Forces, which honestly I played the computer one a lot. It was kind of disappointing. Ironically, there was a good Star Wars game connected to Episode 1, and that's Jedi Power Battles. Even though the Dreamcast one's better, this is a pretty solid title, side-scrolling game in which you are Jedi. It's awesome. This game is not good. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Star Wars Rebel Assault 2. I wasn't a fan of this. It's a full motion video game, but anyways, it's okay. Next, you have the awesome Siphon Filter series. You had oh, real quick, Stuart Little 2. Then you had the Siphon Filter series. Oh wait, look, one fell. Womp womp. Street Fighter Alpha 3. Now, finally, that's what stinks about these falling. You had Siphon Filter. Siphon Filter 2. It's a double case. And Siphon Filter 3. Next up, you had TNN Motorsports Hardcore 4x4. It's a mouthful. One of my favorite fighting series on the PlayStation, you had Tekken. And then you had Tekken 2. But more importantly, you had Tekken 3. And Tekken 3 is awesome. Tekken, to me, 3 is kind of the gold standard. Really, I played so much Tekken 3 on PlayStation. Played it a ton. Next up, you had the Test Drive 4. You had Test Drive 5. And Test Drive Off-Road. Again, for some of these games, it's not about, they'll never probably have value, but there's so many on eBay that have a generic picture, or just finding some of these greatest hits ones are challenging because you'll have to search and search and search and search listings to find the one game that's the greatest hits. And sometimes you have to be careful, make sure to look at the disc, because many times I'd look online and it would be a mismatch. And so a lot of people don't care or understand that the discs for the greatest hits are different than the actual release. they're different. So just a heads up on that. Next up is Tenchu. And then you have Tenchu 2. I was a fan of Tenchu 1 more. 10 Pin Alley. Now here's a variation, a simple one. You have Tetris Plus, has like a gold foil to the title there. And then you had a Tetris Plus that didn't have that. That gold foil must have cost 10 cents, so they couldn't do it. Next up, you had many Tomb Raiders. So you had Tomb Raider 1, and there's a lot of variations of this. There was several with variations. You had Tomb Raider 2. So here's Tomb Raider 2. And then this Tomb Raider includes a demo for Tomb Raider 3, Gex 3, Deep Covered Gecko, and Legacy Kane's Soul Reaver, and has a little label on the front of it. So that's kind of cool. There's often a lot of variations like that, and it's fun to collect. I didn't really care so much as to track all the variations down. One greatest hits version was good enough for me. Tomb Raider 3 and Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation. I know there are fans out there that love the Tomb Raider series. I think the Tomb Raider series now is way better than it ever has been. It's something I definitely want to give more attention to, the series. Just haven't had time. So next up, you got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Awesome. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Tony Hawk 3. And Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. Also known as Better Than 5. Alright, you had 2 triple play baseball games. This one is the easier one to find, Triple Play 98. This one is pretty hard to find. This is sealed. Again, it's not worth a ton, but you know, again, they made the same game, or the same named game for PS2, and I think there just wasn't many copies floating around by this time. You know, people had moved on to PlayStation 2. So Triple Play 2001 Greatest Hits is hard to find. Next up is the amazing Twisted Metal series. I like the first 2 the best. There's Twisted Metal 1, which was great. But my favorite is Twisted Metal 2. Played this a lot. Love this game. Twisted Metal 2. Great game. Best in the series, I think, for the original PlayStation. Twisted Metal 3. And Twisted Metal 4. Again, I think after 2, it wasn't the same. Just my opinion. So next up, this is another hard one to get. You can track it down, but again, most RPG collectors wanted to get the standard first release of this, and so Vagrant Story Greatest Hits. It's in a single case too, just a heads up, and I think it's cool. Next up, the Vigilante. Is it the Second Offense? One of these is pretty tough to get. The Vigilante 8. Greatest Hits, and then I think it's a Second Offense. It's one of the 2. This is pretty tough to get. It's one of my last. I think it's a Second Offense. I want to say one of these was pretty tough to track down. Again, it may pop up and you get a crazy cheap deal on it, but you know, again, these aren't going to be super sought after, I don't think, in the collector market. It's just a fun subset to collect. You know, and I enjoyed doing it, and scored many of these inexpensive. You know, and prices may go up, but who knows? I mean, I do think it's a pretty niche sub collector going for this. So, Warhawk, great game, by the way. You had 2 WCW. You had WCW Nitro and WCW versus the World. A lot of wrestling games. A lot of wrestling games. Then you had 4 WF games. You had WF WrestleMania, the arcade game, which I'm a fan of. Love playing Doink the Clown. Then you had Smackdown. Smackdown was a lot of fun. And then Smackdown 2. And that was one of the very first greatest hits games I got. That's when I saw that. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I think I should collect all those. And then it took my journey on collecting greatest hits went over many years. I didn't swoop up on it or rush out to get it. I just enjoyed collecting it. And for me personally, clicking a button and getting it online, that's not how I collect. I enjoy going to conventions or game stores and finding stuff. For everybody, that may not be an option, but for me, having a story behind collecting a game is just as important as like getting a game. And so that's just a personal thought on that. WF Warzone, another wrestling game. Yeah, of course you're going to have a Wheel of Fortune game. And you had Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, 2nd edition. And alright. Wipeout. Wipeout's an awesome game. Then you had Xenogears. And you had X-Men Mutant Academy. X-Men fighting game. And decent. I enjoyed it. Well, there you have it. There you have the whole list. Appreciate everybody taking their time to view this. And that's it. There's the greatest hits collection. I want to thank everybody for watching it. And this is the immortal John Hancock signing out. And I'll see you next week.